dancing and laughing so low that even my mama thinks that my mind is gone. But I ain't never crossed a man that didn't deserve it. Me be treated like a punk, you know that's unheard of. You better watch how you're talking and where you're walking, or you and your homies might be lying in chalk. I really hate the trip, but I gotta low. As they croak, I see myself in the pistol smoke. Fool, I'm the kind of G the little homies wanna be like, on my knees in the night, saying prayers in the street light. Been spending most of their lives living in the gangster's paradise. We've been spending most of their lives living in the gangster's paradise. We keep spending most of our lives living in the gangster's paradise. We keep spending most of our lives living in the gangster's paradise. Look at the situation they got me facing. I can't live a normal life.
Okay, and we are live here. So yes, I started with this gangster rap clip. It's approaching, I think it already crossed 10,000 views, and it shows the New York state corruption. The judiciary wants our trust, but the head of the judiciary, Jeanette DeFiore, abruptly resigned. Judge Sylvia Ash was jailed by federal court. Judge Mihalik, Judge Mihalski. So many stories of judicial corruption. So that's one of the themes that we covered here. But thanks everybody for joining us. See, people are we're just giving a couple of moments to join for the audience from Facebook, from YouTube, and from our new guest here, George Saldana from Texas, who also connected his Facebook page, and of course my co-host T. Matthew Phillips all the way from Nevada. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to tell my story and hopefully help somebody or motivate them to, get help or, become an advocate for the children.
No, absolutely. And T, Matthew and I, we actually discussed, we always try to bring, new people. And again, it's a citizen journalism project, right? So we need to be interviewing each other. There's no hosts or guests. We're all victims of the system here. Alienated fathers, alienated parents, but I saw that you, George, you are becoming more and more active, and especially so in a couple of recent weeks. And thank you for the activism, for your visibility. I think it's critically important for parents, for victims to speak up. I was captivated by the story that was published and actually shared here in New York. I'm suffering from from the oppression here in the state of New York, but Texas is a very visible state, and there was a story of you actually being arrested, right, for filming in the courtroom, and it caught my eye, and many thousands others, because we had a similar story here in New York. Another prominent advocate for the children, for court freedom from oppression, James Kelly, was jailed for something similar that he did. He was sent to 30 days of incarceration for criminal contempt. And after we raised hell on social media and publicized it, he was let out after less than 3 days. And when I saw that you went through something similar in Texas, that's, of course, shows your bravery. And that particular part of your story actually has a good end. So without me talking too much, please tell us, please tell the audience what happened, and we'll go from there.
So I've been in the Harris County courts for the last 7 years, and I've seen a lot of things. And a man gets to his breaking point when he's trying to communicate effectively with the courts, and then at the end of the day, these courts are so flagrant about things. You have to record to tell yourself and tell others that, hey, look, this is what's really going on. And I think a lot of people at the very beginning dismissed me because, you're not an attorney, you don't understand the rules, and they just kind of gaslight you into thinking that you're crazy. But I also found out that, and I was reading that if you record a crime, you should turn in, your footage. So I started reading, and a lot of people think that since I'm so aggressive, right, I'm fighting for my kid. And if you're breaking the laws, I'm going to yell from the rooftops, and I'm going to record it. So not only do I record and I tell parents, if there's so many benefits to recording. Transcript integrity is the big one, because here in Texas we're seeing where these court reporters are making transcripts to favor what the judge's ruling is. The recordings don't match up to the transcripts.
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 stories that we're working on right now about that. And in the past, the judge has been so flagrant about breaking the law that I felt like I have to record to protect myself. I mean, if you're going to throw me in jail for reporting, you're engaging in criminal activity by violating me, I'll take that. I'll take that ride.
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of my mentality. So for years, I've had somebody record for me, or I've recorded, and this is like no other. But this last time, what I was going to do was I was going to make it very, very noticeable that I was recording. So I had recused this judge, and they didn't have jurisdiction, and they wanted to force me into trial. And I wasn't going to be forced into trial. And there's a recusal on the table. It's with the administrative judge, and this judge clearly didn't have jurisdiction. There was ex parte communication, I found out. So I went in there with my phone in my pocket, and I told the judge I was recording.
Mm-hmm.
I told her that there was public servants in here. I laid down everything that I have read from First Amendment auditors, things that I've seen, and I was going to test that. There are a couple advocates here in Texas that have tested it, and we've asked judges, what law are we breaking? And they can't tell you. They won't tell you, or they can't tell you because it's not in the criminal code. What it does say by the rules is that you may ask the judge if you can record. Well, I'm not going to ask the judge to record if the judge is violating me. I'm just going to record it, and I'll take that ride later. So I told the judge that I was recording. The bailiff, we have had problems with the bailiffs before. The bailiffs, every time I go to court, I always take an entourage with me, 15, 20 people with me. Never go to court by yourself. I invite other advocates. I invite whoever wants to go just to look, be my eyes and ears. And so the in-person hearings, they played games with me. First, they tried to put me on Zoom, and then I started flooding the Zooms with all my court watchers and putting it on groups. And we had 100, 150 people in some of these Zooms watching my hearings. So they didn't want that. So then they tried to make me go to hearings in breakout rooms. And I told them, no, we're not doing Star Chamber hearings either. I'm not entering a breakout room. So now they're telling me, well, you got to come into all your hearings. COVID's over. So I said, okay. So I would invite everybody to come to my hearings. So every time I rolled up there, it was 20 people deep. And so these bailiffs, they don't like being watched. The judge doesn't like being watched. So now the bailiffs are working as a agent of the judge. And so when I went in there, I knew what a bailiff's job is. A bailiff's job is to handle court security, but they're employed by the county, and the county pays them. It's not the judge. So they are not at the sole discretion of the judge. They still have to uphold general law. They're still supposed to protect the public. So putting all of that logic together, no criminal code, you can ask, you're recording. I'm willing to take my chances now. I've talked myself into it. So I went in there, I recorded, and I told the judge I was recording. I told her she didn't have jurisdiction, and that's where the video starts.
Brave. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to comment and say that is very brave for you to do, the very honest, to tell them what you're doing and to say it. And I just think that's admirable.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm not doing it. You see some First Amendment auditors where they do it to police just to cause a reaction and just to, but in our advocacy, I said we need First Amendment auditors to go with family advocates. You get both of them together, they record you because they're comfortable in it, and then you help them with the legal stuff, right? That's a powerful movement right there. So we started getting First Amendment auditors, and you know what auditors do? They touch the line.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's other parents that are saying, hey, look, I'm being violated too. I'm recording. The SCJC, the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, they will take those recordings here in Texas anyway.
They will.
Yeah. They tell you not to record, but the Supreme Court of Texas has everything on YouTube, and it's all being documented and recorded. But long story short, these bailiffs have been pushing us out, assaulting us, putting their hands and shoving us out. Get out of here. Not just to me, not just to my mom, but to other advocates that have gone with me to court watch. And these people are tired of it. We've asked for their supervisors so many times that now they just tell me, go down to internal affairs. You want to talk to the supervisor. So now it's a flagrant, we're going to push you and there's nothing you can do. There's no reporting mechanism. So, well, now I'm just going to record it. If y'all are going to be that flagrant about the law, y'all can't hold me to a certain standard and not hold yourself.
So what happened in that concrete case? Because I saw very dramatic footage. I'll try to pull it on the screen, but if not, you have a YouTube channel, right? So everybody can watch it, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that day, again, I went in there. I told her I was recusing, that there was a recusal. I told her that I actually left. I left and I said, I'm going to go talk to the administrative judge to get this squared away. You're telling me we're ready set for trial. There's a recusal. I'm going to go talk to the administrative judge.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually walked out. Well, when I walked out, I didn't have my laptop bags that I brought in. So I wanted to sneak in there to grab my laptop bags, but the bailiff was there at the door. He turns around, he looks over at me, and then he starts clutching at my phone. I walk back. I'm actually, and this is what I told the defense attorney, because they charged me with assault on a peace officer with bodily injury.
So let's make it clear, because the footage I think is very clear, right? So he approached you, right, and he tried to. It looks like he tried to take the phone out of your hand, and you were charged with assault. With real crime.
There was no de-escalation tactic used. There was nothing. The guy just turned around and he came after me. He's clutching at my phone, grabbing, and I'm telling him, leave me alone, get off of me. And so then again, I'm walking back. So they're coming towards me. They're being the aggressors coming towards me. And then when they turn around, I tap him on his back and say, hey, let me talk to your supervisor. And just that little tap caught me assault on a peace officer with bodily injury. They didn't charge me for recording in the courtroom. But that little tap asking for a supervisor landed me in jail. Then they benched warrant me from criminal or from jail through the criminal system to have me come back to the civil system, and they held a trial. So I had to go through my child custody trial in shackles, handcuffs, and an orange jumpsuit. So I'm there for I'm there for 3 days in orange with shackles, being treated like a criminal. And I'm having 6 bailiffs escort me every day to the courthouse from the jail. Because
so they paraded you essentially in your capacity as a criminal, right? Accused criminal. Just to make another show for the family trial, family court custody case.
With no belt.
No, I mean it's the funny part is that when they charged me, they gave me an order of no contact. I couldn't contact the judge or the bailiff in any harassing manner, or they would revoke any bonds that I would have. So I'm already thinking like, look, y'all already arrested me on this bogus charge. And now y'all are going to bench warrant me to go back and talk to the same people y'all just gave me an order not to talk to. So now I have to go through trial, and the people that are accusing me of assaulting them are standing right in front of me during this whole trial. So when they say, don't say anything, or, that your Miranda rights, and I'm going through a 3-day trial with this bailiff that I'm not supposed to have contact with, and he's escorting me back and forth to jail. So
what sense does it make? But nothing makes sense in family court. Yeah.
I mean,
it's just a show of force. It's a show of totalitarianism.
And we were talking about this in another YouTube deal the other day, is that Harris County is now showing a force. They're actually bringing in 6, 8, and as many as 12 bailiffs for these civil hearings. You have some of these advocates that are whistleblowing that are coming out and saying, hey, look, there's corruption in Harris County courts. And the judge doesn't want you, your friends. They don't want nobody in there. And Kyle is part of my advocacy groups. He has my back. I have his back. We go and watch for each other. And I couldn't make it on Monday. I had something going on here in San Antonio. But now that's where it shifts into Kyle, right? Kyle's story.
Yeah, but before we go there, because it's very interesting as well. I just want to emphasize, and not many people, unfortunately, we are not united in that sense that different states think that their counties, their states are the most corrupt. But I think Matthew and I, we try to emphasize here on the show, or demonstrate to the people that that's not county or state based. It's not even country based. It's beyond the U.S. It's in Israel. It's in the UK. It's in Australia. It's in New Zealand. It's in Bulgaria. It's in Japan. It's everywhere. It's part of the worldwide ideological taking down of the whole Western civilization, like other things that we're seeing. So, if I may, and I, of course, thank you for presenting your story. I think it's very, very dramatic, but it had a good end, right? So maybe we'll just cover the end, because it's encouraging. It's a moral boost, for many of those who are facing this tyranny. So, how did the story end?
So this last Friday, a week ago, they wanted to put me on 24-hour house arrest. 24 hours. It eventually was from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. They wanted to put me on an ankle bracelet on top of that. And honestly, I wasn't gonna. I knew I didn't do anything, so I just said, well, I'm going to wait till the next hearing. And I just prayed. My defense attorney knew the video was out. We knew we had plenty of witnesses. We knew we were live. We knew what we had. So I just called their bluff, and I said, no, I'm not going to take your ankle bracelet or whatever. If y'all want to lock me up, and, and I think that's the important part where the motivation should come in, is that I want parents to know that if you're right in your argument, stick to your guns, because these family courts will use intimidation tactics, bringing extra bailiffs, forcing you out, telling you, it's a closed court, or they're going to hold you in contempt. And I think parents need to start. And I don't want to sound that I'm trying to create chaos in the family courts, but I want people to stand up a little bit more firm when talking to a judge, because if not, they're going to get railroaded. And it's important to take people with you. So at the end, it's dismissed. So I had to pay bond. I was in jail for 3 days. I went to civil court. They ruled against me, all because I tapped an officer asking for a supervisor.
Yeah. So, but the charges were dropped, and you are free from the assault, which sounds serious.
Yeah, it's a 3rd-degree felony here in Texas.
Yeah, serious thing that basically came to nothing, right? And I really glad to hear that you said you were praying. I think it's a spiritual battle, and I'm trying to be as practicing Jew as I can, and I know people of different faiths, but we need to have faith in God, because basically what we're facing is godless system.
Right.
So that's amazing. It's very encouraging. So and can we say that can it be said that essentially the fact that your video was public live out there, that's what saved you, quote unquote?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is why I tell people to record. They're recording you. They're recording you. They're using Zoom. Whatever they're using, your tax dollars are paying for that Zoom as well. You should demand to use it. And these days, if you're not going to put a recording up that doesn't have a crime on it. People, when they get violated and they have a recording of it, that's when they start yelling, hey, look, I got a recording. This is what they did to me, just like I did. But if I wouldn't have recorded, I would be probably charged, and I was charged, but I would probably still be fighting that issue. They would drag it out 2 years, 3 years, whatever they can, and then they would have me on an ankle monitor. My liberties would be taken away, because these bailiffs know what they're doing. And that's the flagrant part. And if you want to talk about, it's almost like the Gestapo. The judge is using the bailiffs to rule in intimidation tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And that judge is responsible for that bailiff, but that bailiff works for the county. So now we go after the county. And then we see if the bailiff is going to roll over on the judge and say the judge told me to do it to save his job.
Yeah.
I've got this thing all planned out.
Well, I have to say, not to interrupt you, but just to interject briefly, this is one thing that we see a great deal. The judges will intentionally use their marshals or the law enforcement officer, the LEOs, we call them, LEO, law enforcement officer. Well, the judges use them as pit bulls, as their little private, brown shirt army, or Schutzstaffel, whatever you want to call them. But they very literally do use their law enforcement officers as an instrument of brutality to justify what they're doing. And I really think that they're overboard with, I have to say this, everybody's seen the famous instance where the guy in Las Vegas got horizontal and, jumped over the bench. I guess it was an unfortunate incident, but people ask the question, how could that happen? How was he allowed to get a running start and do that? Well, it's very simple, because he wasn't in family court. If he had been in family court, he would have been surrounded by deputy marshals. I've had that experience myself. And certainly as an attorney, I'm used to practicing law. And when you're trying to concentrate and present legal arguments, it's encumbering, if you will, to have deputy marshals standing around you and flexing their muscles and intimidating. And it really, really is a problem, And so the thing is, I just wanted to acknowledge that, because I hear it so much from clients and just from people, from friends and so forth. And I've experienced it firsthand, and it's ridiculous. So I wanted to say that.
And in the criminal courts, you're right. In the criminal courts, they have one bailiff, and that's what he did. He got a running start with one bailiff. You go to the family court and you have 6, 8 bailiffs. And every time George comes in, there's some special notice that Saldana is coming into the building. He's got a hearing. And then all of a sudden you have 6 or 8 bailiffs all circulating. You have a bomb sniffing dog outside. And for what? Because he's wanting you to hold you to the standard that y'all wrote, y'all legislated, that's in our Constitution.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got to say, It really shows you what a fiction and fairy tale land we have with family court. Because if you were to, take a citizen's poll of reasonable persons and say, hey, where should we place the most law enforcement assets? Where should we place the most LEOs? Any free-thinking person is going to say, well, for goodness sake, put the armed guards, put them around the criminals, the felons, like the guy who jumped over the bench is a convicted felon. That's where they should be placing the law enforcement assets. But, I think about myself because I kind of want to personalize this. I pose a threat to nobody. I'm an old man. I'm an attorney. I argue. I don't, and yet they do that with me. I've been surrounded by law enforcement officers, and it makes absolutely no sense. But what they do is they're able to typecast you and pretend that you're violent, and then everybody watching it thinks, oh my God, Saldana must be totally gangster because we need a detail of the sniffer dogs and the tough guys and the SWAT teams and the riot shields and who knows what all. But anyways.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. And this is why I tell people, I have my personal friends, and that's why I have two Facebooks. I have a professional Facebook that I'm on now, and then I have my personal. But my personal friends are tired of hearing it, and I want to advocate and I want to help people. So I have to learn how to separate that healthy, right? Have a life here, but also advocate this hard. And people call me aggressive, and the way I guess maybe I see things black and white. I feel that this is the law. You should know the law. If you don't, we live in 2024. We all have computers. We have iPads. We have iPhones. You can clearly look up the law right now while I'm talking to you, right? You don't need to. I had 5 bailiffs jump on me after I tapped him on his shoulder. Literally 5 bailiffs jump on top of me while I was on the ground. 5. And threatened to tase me. And not because it's an assault, not because I stole a Cadillac converter, right? It's because I want to see my son. The judge has ordered me to show up on these days, and I've showed up on those days. I have my police reports. And you're still making it this hard for a parent to be in their child's lives that you have to call bailiffs to come and intimidate this man to stand down so you can violate him? Absolutely not. I'm not going to be violated.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge the audience. We are watched by close to 20 people between Facebook and YouTube. So I'm pulling some comments here. John is saying hello. Cadence is saying hello. Cadence, I heard that you want to come on the show, so maybe.
Oh yes,
maybe
no, I'm happy to report to the viewing audience that our people were able to speak with Miss Harper's people, and after having some preliminary productive conversations, it looks like we may have a Zoom conference next week, and so hopefully we can get Miss Harper on the show.
Right. Justice J is here, very active in comments. Thank you very much. Nathan is saying locking up movement leaders and supporters.
I completely agree. These parents that are teaching others to stand up, and tiptoe to that line for your child. What will you do for your child? What will you do for your child? Let me say it again. What will you do for your child? Would you expose a judge that's violating you? Absolutely. I'm not beneath that.
Yeah.
And these people that are motivating and encouraging these parents are now, and we're the first wave. There's going to be another wave of parents, more louder, doing other things. So we're just the first wave. We're coming.
Monica is saying hello. Tony Patel is watching. Also, maybe we'll do a live together. Prominent figure in this fight. But we have very good audience participation. So I compare it to the streams that are done by Mayor Eric Adams, mayor of a major city, one of the most major cities in the world, right? And if he gets 20 people watching at the same time, that's an achievement. But thanks everyone. Please ask any questions that you might have. I have to agree. It's a show of intimidation. I experienced that myself. I always say that the only thing that's missing is the dogs. We don't have the dogs in New York. Maybe they are coming, but it would be completely, organic to see, one of the court guards. They're called, guards or officers here, right? Just holding a German Shepherd. It has to be German, on a leash, just to intimidate you. It's unbelievable. I had a hearing when I had around, I think, 6 people. six armed guards around me, and I'm, one of them was covering my microphone to prevent me, from being recorded on record. It's just unbelievable what they do. And the comparison that Matthew gave to criminal court and the that viral clip that we all discussed right now, I think it's very apt, because essentially it's very clear to those who go through family court, they treat us worse than criminals. Criminals. We have no criminals, at least have right, in some states, depending on the crime you're charged with, at least you have a jury trial. We have nothing, at least not in New York, in the majority of states. And why is that? Because we are more dangerous to the regime than criminals. Why? Because we want to be parents, we want to be fathers, right? We want to raise our children, and that's way more dangerous to the to what we are facing right now. Which I think the comparisons that Matthew and I are constantly making to the catastrophe, the Holocaust that happened not so long ago, are very, very appropriate. So that's just my comment. But let's go to another story that you are now covering as an activist, and the story of Kyle, right? So that was an astonishing thing that I actually I posted it. You shared it, and I posted it. He was incarcerated. He was jailed by a judge who actually commented on his Facebook page. Is it true?
Yeah. That's why I say it's flagrant in Harris County. And if y'all are coming at me for recording while y'all are doing all this flagrant illegal stuff, like, that's the least of my worries. But yes, you're absolutely right. So Kyle French and I, just a little history. We met in some Facebook post, and he was talking about Judge Barbara Stalder. Barbara Stalder was elected. Harris County has their own protective order court. So with this protective order court, Barbara Stalder was signing off on something like 93% of all the protective orders coming through her court. Mm-hmm. So in Harris County, you have, just like you have constitutional lawyers, or you have real estate lawyers, or personal injury attorneys. In Harris County, they have protective order attorneys. And there are a whole bunch of old white men or white women that don't like men, and they go in for the kill. They use the trigger words, they use the legal terminology, they all share that case law, and their sole purpose is to eliminate the other parent. So they go, they circumvent the district court, family court, and they'll go to the 280th or forum shopping, judge shopping, whatever you want to call it, and they'll get their protective order through that court. So Kyle had been in that court, and we had been exposing Barbara Stalder that's what she was doing. Because once they put you on supervised visitations, they're going to hit you with a battery intervention class and supervised visits. And, you're going to have to pay for all these other things. They're just going to put all these stipulations on you to be a parent. So all that money goes back into the county. They get more resources, more money. So essentially they're using the protective order to eliminate parents and then make them pay back the county. So now Kyle and I are both exposing this. We're putting it out on social media. He's hanging up banners. This new judge comes in, the one who's jailed him. And we talked to her before she was going to get elected, because obviously we wanted the other judge out. She gets elected, and she promises none of the baloney litigation. That you see is these parents that come back to the protective order court to enforce the protective order to effectively eliminate that parent. And when I say that, it's because the parents that request the restraining order, the order of protection, they usually circle back around to their victim and take screenshots of their Facebook. They cruise by their house, right? And then they take it back to protective order court and say, hey, look, this guy is still, commenting about me. And because the protective orders are so vague, and there's so much protection, and there's so much weight, the silver bullet of these protective orders, we're just going to hold that individual in contempt, and then we're going to jail them, effectively remove them for 2 years, and then we're going to make them work to be a parent again. So we've been exposing all of this, all these patterns, because we're seeing it in parent after parent after parent. It's not just my story. It's just not Kyle's story. So we have a Facebook group with Houston, Harris County, and we've probably got about 60 people in there, and they tell us the certain patterns. A lot of this litigation is cookie cutter. File an enforcement. Okay, well, we're going to do an enforcement on child support, right? So we've already figured out the patterns. So Kyle and I are exposing this.
I suspect, just to interject, you know, there's some evidence that they actually have a flow chart. They have a book, you know. It's of course it's unwritten, but they go through certain, you know, type of stages, right? Certain stages, and they actually can route you to a certain category according, you know, to different factors they have. Of course, it's not the law. Of course, it's not the Constitution, but
yeah. And when you work outside as of the cookie cutter, these lawyers shut down. They don't know what to do because they've never seen it. When you start making these arguments, they don't know what to do. They start freaking out because that's not part of the cookie cutter. Let's go to mediation. What, you know, when they said, George, you got to have a home eval, I was like, no, I'm not going to let you do a home eval. I'm not going to let you come into my house. Well, no, if you want to see your child, you got to do a home eval. Nope, you're not going to do a home eval. We want your DNA. Nope, you're not going to take my DNA either. You just start telling them, and some of these lawyers don't want to do it. And I get it. I understand their bar license. I understand, but when it gets this bad, you need the ethical attorneys to stand up and fight against the system and say, these guys are correct. What we're doing, we're perverting our own profession. You're perverting your own profession, and then you want people to want to do business with you.
Well,
so Kyle,
if I can interject, I gotta say, I think the attorneys
as an attorney,
are like the
you may, you have to. You
know. No, I hate all the family court attorneys. All they care about is the money. They never make the right argument. You know, they only want to get paid. It's so easy to rip off clients. They do it willfully. They make arguments that to me are ridiculous. To me, the lowest, life form is basically the family court attorney. They're really not doing anything honorable. I can even recall, I didn't want to break up too much what you were saying, but some people may benefit from this. In the area of restraining order that says you can't talk about somebody, that violates the First Amendment. That is an unlawful prior restraint. And attorneys never argue this. I don't know why attorneys are afraid to argue it, but the truth of the matter is you can talk about people. You can't talk necessarily, some cases, at them. You can't direct communication at them and be messaging them or telegrams or emails. If you're talking at somebody, that may be a course of conduct directed at somebody and may cease to become speech. But if you're just talking to the general public about somebody, well, that's exactly what the First Amendment protects. And yet no attorney will make this argument that I just made right now. And it's a winning argument, but they want to go along with the restraining order to get paid,
But now we live in a society where we have technology at our fingertips. We all have our little fingerprint, right? Our fingerprint on social media. I have my own little space, George Saldana, our Texas Team 2503. Right? That's my little web space for me to do what I need to do. You have your channel and you have your StreamYard. You're able to stream this. This is yours. For them that are protected to come look for it, to say, oh, guess what George Saldana said in Roman's podcast. I want to hold him in contempt for violation of protective order. You're absolutely right. You have your own First Amendment space here. So, not to get off track, but with Kyle, we've learned that there's no oversight at the State Commission on Judicial Conduct.
It's the same everywhere. It's the same thing in New York as well. Yeah.
Right. No oversight at the bar. The only thing you can do is expose it. That is the only way you can get things done. You can't legislate laws. Why are you going to go legislate laws that they're not going to enforce the laws that are already on the books? Not just that, when you go to the legislature is made up of bar employees. So they're going to block every good law that the grassroots or the people want. So essentially, we're being ruled by lawyers and the state bar. So there's no oversight. There's no legislative relief. You don't have relief on the criminal side. You don't have relief on the civil side. So what are these court orders here for? Why do we have these court orders? We live in 2024. We can look at Pluto or Mars, the sun, but we can't find a better system to figure out how to make the courts work like they're supposed to, or how to enforce these orders correctly.
No, we can. It's just the government doesn't want us to, right? It's not a question of ability. It's a question of will, and there's no will. It's an oppressive enslavement system. That's what it is. And the only the only function in court is the court of public opinion, which is what we are doing here, and what we are supposed to be doing all the time. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah. So we assemble. We're assembling now. We are assembling, and we're advocating, and we're sharing each other's posts, and people are coming out now and saying, hey, look, I thought it was just me. I thought this was just my imagination that the lawyer lied. But now I'm seeing where George is preaching, that these lawyers are lying, and he's not going to tolerate it. If a lawyer lies willingly and knowingly, and the judge doesn't admonish that lawyer, why are we even participating in that court hearing?
Right? I have a harder question. What happens if the judge lies, which they also do?
Well, right. I mean, at what point are you going to find justice? I'm spending money on a lawyer for these tricks? No. That's it doesn't work that way. You don't get to lie to me with my tax dollars. You don't get to lie to me with my tax dollars and then tell me you're dispensing justice. Like, that doesn't work. And I'm holding my ground in family court with it. I'm holding my ground. I'm judge. She has lied 4 times, judge. And the judge telling her that. We have an affidavit. We have 3 hearings with 4 variations of that affidavit. I was told to go to supervised visitations, and I have 4 variations with testimony and an affidavit that says something. That's a 3rd-degree felony in Texas. It's aggravated perjury. And you are allowing to still violate me and keep me on supervised visitation.
No, that's common. It is as it has been repealed. That or custodial interference. There's some laws that are just not enforced, like the Constitution.
So, and the other thing I'm big on, if a judge knowingly and willingly is sending you to the appeals court, if a judge is knowingly and willingly to say, hey, I don't like George Saldana because his beard and he's fat and whatever. I don't like George Saldana. If he's going to, he can't touch me anyway on oversight. They're not going to do anything to me at the SCJC. So if, you know what, I'm going to oppress him. I'm going to send him to the appeals court. He wants to overturn my decision. If a judge is thinking like that, that's criminal, because now you have created a financial harm, an emotional and a mental harm on that parent just because you don't like him, when you couldn't just recuse yourself. It's stealing. You are now stealing the child because you don't like him, because he's voicing out or he has an opinion about his judiciary. If judges willingly and knowingly say, I'm going to make Roman go to the appeals court, they need to be removed from the bench, because now they are stealing from you. They are making you they're going to either make you lose your mind trying to learn to appeal, or they're going to make you drop $20,000 for an appeals lawyer to get you out of this mess. It's unacceptable.
And then the appeals court and then the appellate courts also don't work. So it doesn't really matter. It takes months until you get a decision, if at all. And at the end of the day, they don't intervene in the findings of the trial court. And that's for the final decision, right? And for intermediary decision, they call them interlocutory decisions here in New York. They don't adjudicate them. They have a cookie cutter text, and they paste it on every decision. Basically, that's it.
So one of the things I've been doing is, since there's no reporting mechanism to law enforcement says, we're not going to take your reports. Well, to prove contempt, you got to have, right? You got to have a standard order, or you got to have an order. You got to have a violation of that order, and then you got to have a willingness to violate that order. If I can't get a violation report, if there's no mechanism of reporting and I can't get that, then how can I prove contempt? And this is an issue that I brought up with the judge. You won't let me report it. So how do I report it effectively? Tell me how you want it. It's not legal advice. Just tell me how this court 309th wants me to break this down. But so now with your reporting, what I've been doing is I've been writing my own criminal complaints and filing them directly into my family court case. That family court case, that judge has the ability to refer that criminal complaint. So now I have a bunch of criminal complaints nobody wants to look at in my case. And it all says the same thing. They won't allow me to report this to law enforcement. So when this goes to the appeals court, if I have to appeal, it should be pretty interesting that I'm making criminal complaints in civil cases because nobody will allow me to have that option to file a criminal complaint in outside of that civil courtroom.
Yeah, George, not to stop you. It's all very interesting. I want to do a quick time check. Matthew and I, we try to keep it under an hour, and which is not always enforced like family court. But I want to acknowledge the audience again. So Cadence is saying you are the power, and she leads several groups actually, which is very impressive. Stefan is here. Andrea from your channel is joining. Daphne is from your channel. George, very good. She's saying, what do you do when your attorney and judge proclaim their friendship publicly in court, which is part of the corruption? Ashley is commenting. So we have great engagement. There was a comment that I want to put up here. I think Ashley, she said, if somebody doesn't like what you say, they can block you. Right, and but I want to take it to a slightly different angle because Matthew, thank you for highlighting that. Right, talking to someone, talking about someone, but another part of which many parents I think don't realize or don't utilize is that the core of the First Amendment is not necessarily talking about the other person, right, who were facing the conflict. It's talking about the government.
Right.
It's exposing the government. So
right.
If people are apprehensive, people are afraid, which is to some extent understandable, although I'm an immigrant, right? And America was, at least from the outside, looks like a free country. It's still the greatest country. We still have the Constitution. It's not forgotten, even though it's been erased very consistently, very deliberately. But you should be able to talk about the government because that's the core of our right. And if you are hesitating to talk about your ex, your children, which is understandable and maybe prudent, right? You can still expose the judges. You can criticize the judges freely, which is what we should be doing. And that's what we are doing. So because that's the court of public opinion. There's no other way to change it, other way, than violent. And nobody advocates violence here on this show and in our post. So we're all calm, reasonable people, pushed to unreasonable situations. But we should be exposing that. And everybody who joins that, I agree with you. It's a movement. It's start of the wave. But the wave should be much bigger because they are taking our children. This is very, very serious. Very serious. They've been taking them, but now we have the technology. So, sorry for my part of the rant.
No,
George, if I may, so that's the Kyle story, particularly, again, highlighted the bias, right, or the improper involvement of the judges. So let's just go back to that point because I couldn't believe my eyes. I posted it, but I double checked it, and there seems to be. There are screenshots, right? So she she commented on his posts, right? So there was an interaction outside of the courtroom, and she sent him to jail, the same judge?
Yep. Yeah. You Diane Kirby out of the 280th court. Yeah. We're seeing where these judges are following us. I have a large following on TikTok. I have several judges that I've had issues with follow me.
What's your handle? What's your how can people find you on TikTok? Because some people are on different platforms.
Yeah, on TikTok, it's at Texas 25.03. It's the same thing on YouTube and Instagram. We're on Facebook, Interference with Child Custody, Texas Penal Code 2503. I'm running Texas Court News, which is kind of just a central hub for parents that are looking for certain resources or stories on the corruption in these family courts. So I've got my irons, you know, in a lot of fires. And then, you know, We the Parents Texas, some of y'all know that the documentary came out. And
Right.
so we've been promoting that and trying to get more parents to acknowledge. And I think, you know, with every little Zoom and video that we're doing, people are starting to come out and saying, yeah, you know what, I've had enough. I'm seeing the same thing you are, and I want to address it.
Criticize. And if I could, just to throw in on that note about criticisms, there's a famous Supreme Court case from 1964 called New York Times versus Sullivan. And in that decision, Justice Brennan says that we have a right to criticize government officials. And that right is probably the reason they came up with the First Amendment, if you think about it. But there's the famous quote from that case where the criticism is allowed to be uninhibited, robust, and wide open. So remember that language, uninhibited, robust, and wide open, when you're criticizing government officials, because that's the permissible parameters of your free speech right to criticize.
I mean, it's real easy to me now. All you really have to do for all of y'all that are in court, find somebody in your court. Find 5, 10 parents, walk up there when they're having a day or 2 days, go up there while they're having, and find people that are in that court and talk to them. Meet up every Wednesday at a Chili's and say, hey, what is this judge doing? Is she doing this to you? Is she doing it to me? And then talk about it. Get on a podcast, get in your area and start talking about it. And then when it comes to election time, bring it up. When they show up at a town hall meeting, hey, judge, I saw you do this. Is this how you operate? And then go to whoever's running against them and ask them if they're going to commit that type of behavior if they're elected. And you're going to see a lot of change. But the thing is, a lot of these parents, they want the quick fix. Give me the motion to get my kids back. A lot of them can't or won't beat the streets, you know, with trying to chase down legislation or trying to meet up with their state rep or their state senator. So I tried to say, hey, look, guys, you know, there's more to just filing a motion and trying to go to court. You're going to have to become an advocate, and you're going to have to learn to win people over, because when you win people over, that's when you get more eyes on your case. And if I win, you win. Right? So we need to work together.
Yeah, it's you know, I have strong opinions on that as well. Unfortunately, I'm not a believer in elections. I don't think any of that works. At least, you know, on any level, in my opinion. It's all rigged, like the court system. Otherwise we wouldn't be at the point we are right now. I can tell you that, you know, in the process, how the process of getting judges on the bench in New York works. So some judges are still elected. For example, Supreme Court judges, they hear matrimonial cases. That's before the divorce. After the divorce, it goes custody, visitation issues go to family court. But these judges ostensibly are elected, but they never run. They run unopposed and cross-endorsed. So there's nobody running against them, and they're endorsed by both parties, which is a big question, right? So we have Coke and Pepsi, like so. But in America, right? So it's like, but that's what it is. So they run unopposed, they run cross-endorsed. They are always selected. There's a limit. There's the number of seats that are available is the number of the candidates, and moreover, and that's to shamelessly plug my own work, right? That's what I did this morning in the city of New York, which is the largest conglomerate of population here in New York. If you trust their numbers, it's around what, 15 million people. The judges here that rule over that huge chunk of the population are not elected. They are selected. Family court judges in New York are selected and appointed by the mayor. They are appointed through a committee. It's called the Mayor's Advisory Committee on the Judiciary. And I attended the meeting today as a member of the public. Unfortunately, I think I was the only member of the public there. They didn't let me speak. They didn't read my comments. I haven't seen anyone else from the public speaking. Basically, this whole thing was a farce. They treated it as a celebration party. That's how the judges in New York, family court judges, my judge who torments me and my children for over 2 years, Janet McFarland, that's how they get appointed. So nobody opposes them, nobody asks any hard questions. That was supposed to be a public hearing, and there are 19 members of the committee, and there were only 2 there in attendance. So it just I'm asking people to watch my report from this morning, but this whole system is designed in a very sly, very sleek way because it's communist script. It's unconstitutional, anti-constitutional. So I'm not sure elections is the solution. I think the only solution is the exposure and people being brave and doing shows like this, interviewing each other.
No doubt. Yeah.
So let's see. Another viewer from your channel is coming. Jose, many run unopposed. Yep. Mary Catherine Skelly, another great advocate from upstate New York. They want more family court judges in New York, more trafficking for profit. That's a huge topic that we need to cover. That's a hefty issue. But we are coming up on 55 minutes. So Matthew, you have maybe any comments, any questions for our great guest from the great state of Texas, which suppose it seems you guys are
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no problem.
I heard about
that. It's sad that we have to use unorthodox methods to get our point across. And none of them are even violent, right? But the fact that we have to do extra work and then try to circumvent certain avenues, right? Because there's roadblocks. There's roadblocks there on purpose. So we have to go around, or we have to make our own path. The best thing I can do is tell everybody that's watching, find somebody in your area. Quit doing it by yourself. Don't do it by yourself. If you're going to go into court and you're going to advocate and you want to be with your child, find people that you can lean on. Doing it by yourself, you're going to get railroaded. You can pay an attorney, and there are good attorneys, there are good judges, right? But the way things are going right now, it's just a money pit. There's a lot of money being used and given in transactions, right? And these are business models. These are business models. So you need to disrupt the process. You got to disrupt the money, and giving back into the system is just going to keep making the system stronger. So stand up for your rights. Find somebody that's willing to go with you. Record everything. If they're breaking the law and you're recording it, you have the right to send that piece of evidence for prosecution, and that's going to save you. And that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, it brings us to the beginning of the show when you said essentially your recording saved you from a serious criminal charge, which was completely bogus, and that's the same pattern they use everywhere. So they know that the prohibitions on recording are unconstitutional, are unlawful everywhere. They have it in the court here in New York, right? They know there's no ground for that. There's no basis for that. So if they try to oppress you, they get you for something else, like assault, right? Like disorderly conduct, stuff like that. There's a very interesting effort just to mention for the viewers in New Hampshire. One of the state representatives, a brave person, brave man, is actually going to the federal court in New Hampshire with another member of the public, and they are recording openly. So the same problem of concealing what's going on inside the courtroom happens in the federal system as well. So it's not only Texas State Court or New York State Court. Again, case of James Kelly, who showed it to everyone. That's unbelievable. But the only way, right, is for us to expose it. I wanna acknowledge a couple more comments. So Ellen is saying, if we that's always true. It's universal truth. If we don't use our freedom, we effectively give up our freedoms. Esteban is saying the case is largely started in Title 4D court. We all know that. That's a topic for completely complete show, right? All the financial incentives behind it. But I think it's very, very informative. We have again consistently over 20 people watching. That's amazing. But we're at about an hour. I think it was great. Very informative. Matthew, any words toward the end? It's always
well. I just want to say again, thank you to our guest, Mr. Saldana. You're a very brave man and brilliant and very admirable. So thank you for everything.
Well, I appreciate, guys. If y'all ever need anything, y'all know where to find me.
Yeah, keep us posted, and we'll share the important things and information that you are sharing. I think what you did was very brave. Sets an example. It's actually sets an optimistic example, right? It boosts everybody's morale that you did it, and you suffered repercussions, but you prevailed. So thank you for doing all that.
And one of the things I'd like to leave on is, hey guys, share the content. Right? We're not here to monetize or make money. We want you to share the content, because if I share Romans in Texas, then New York is coming to Texas through Romans Post. If Roman shares George Saldana's post, he's taking a piece of Texas knowledge to New York. And every time we circulate these stories and these lives and stuff, there's people from all over the country that are being united here and assembling here to use these tools. I like to call them tools. Keep them in your toolbox and use it. And if you find a time where you believe that you need to record, you know who to talk to or which video to reference. So please share the content. It educates somebody that might not, have this opportunity to watch this. So share our content.
Excellent. It also proves that what we are facing is global, is worldwide. Actually, that's the word that I would like to use. It's everywhere. It's not a state. It's not a county. It's not a country. It's an ideological subversion, taking down the whole society. So through family court, because if you ruin the family, if you take the children from their parents, that's how you destroy them. And destroyed people are easier to rule, subjugate, and turn into formal slaves. Now we are mental slaves, but they have formal physical slavery ahead of us. So if we let it happen. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, George. Thank you, Matthew. We'll finish the live stream here. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll please share, as George said, and we'll meet you in the next live stream. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.